What's up? Welcome into this Tuesday edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
Nice shirt.
Yeah, dude. You're crushing it. And this is the free Travis Matthew. Shout out, Travis Matthew. We said we're just going to actually wear these every single show from now on.
Yes. Oh, you can wear them anywhere. Like when we first started talking about Travis Matthew on the show, they were like, hey, just make sure that you point out that it's not just a golf company. And we understand that because we wear it for podcasts, golf, dinner with our significant others. I went skiing last week in Montana, which is why you didn't hear this stupid voice. Mm-hmm. And this was a mid-layer for me, the Travis Matthew Cloud shirt. And I'm back here potting with it again. So it's versatile. We love it.
Well, a little how the sausage is made here. I wear this because they have me go on like HQ and I just throw a blazer over it. And it looks like I'm wearing, a well put together fit.
You look new, professional, like cutting edge fashion.
Yes. So we got a loaded show for you guys. We have a bunch of news to get through. We got T. Higgins getting franchise tag, Darius Slay getting cut. A bunch of that stuff. We're going to end it with some combine reaction. Going to go through relative athletic scores, the top ones.
I love that.
You're obsessed with it. We got to discuss that. First, I want to talk about our last couple of weeks. You were skiing.
Yep.
How was that? No injuries, I hear.
Yeah, well, we got out of the Super Bowl without any arrests, but we had the stomach bug stuff that we brought home to our families, and they were suffering for about a week. And then
kind of worse than I did.
We took a little vacay, went to Montana with my wife, Kate. She has never skied before. I skied until I was like...
She wanted to be like a ski family.
I skied till I was like 13. And then when sports started to get serious, I think it was when Chris committed to UVA and had an understanding of you got to stay healthy. And that's when my dad was kind of like, we're not going to ski anymore. You can still wakeboard at the lake and all that stuff because, landing on water a little bit more forgiving. Went up to Montana. What a fantastic week we had in Big Sky up there above the Gallatin River. And everything's dedicated to like Lewis and Clark. And as a guy from Charlottesville, Virginia, which is where they were contracted out of by Thomas Jefferson, it really, I swell with pride when I go as far west as we were, knowing that those gentlemen made it all the way there with their badass cast of teammates.
It is pretty nuts to think about.
And we got back healthy. And Kate can ski. I'm obviously an absolute ripper. I'm just ripping up the mountain. Okay.
So my fiance is like, we want to be a ski family. She wants to. And I'm like,
come with us.
I'm too old.
No, you're not.
I've never skied. I think I skied when I was like 4 years old. I've never skied.
Do it.
I'm too old to try to learn.
You're a little wiry muscle man and you're an athlete. You throw on those skis, you'd be amazed at what you can do. And it's like surfing, the same joy that people take in going out in nature and letting nature push them back. That. You're on a mountain, dude.
There's nothing better than a mountain town.
It's great.
The
beers are better. Shout out to Cold Smoke. I drank a lot of Cold Smoke.
Is there something about altitude where they hit harder?
Oh, they be hitting harder. And you got to watch out. The beer shits at sea level, they are even worse in mountain level. So you have to acclimate. You have to acclimate.
Okay. Good to know. Well, I was at the combine, a little bit different energy. Interviewed a zillion prospects.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. The best ones. Dylan Gabriel was an absolute. I almost asked him to play beer die after.
Is he a bro?
The guy was about as big a bro as you could be.
I love that.
Talked about he brings a boom. He drives a white minivan, picks all his teammates up, all his favorite teammates up from to go to practice every day. Brings a boom box in the locker room. The guy is just tone setter.
You need guys like that.
He's great. Who else is great? Travion Henderson. I love getting the up close and personal because every interview, he'll bring up Jesus or God 3 different times.
That's good.
That's his MO. I love getting the
lost art
personal and that him just doing it right in front of me. I was like, that was elite. They did it. Who else? Jahdae Barron was an excellent interview. Another guy who's just very comfortable. I will say, didn't get to interview Shedeur, but got to interview Cam Ward. All business, all ball.
Really?
That guy doesn't want. There's that clip of him talking about, I don't want to be known for anything other than football. I don't do anything. I fish and play football. That's
good. That's really good.
And apparently
that's like Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas is when they drafted him, he was like, can't answer. I'm catching bass. I'm giving bass hell right now.
Yeah. So that's Cam Ward. So it was cool. And also the Jordan Schulte and Rappaport fight. I got a full blow by blow from Albert Breer. He showed me some pics.
Give me the rundown. And for anybody that's not familiar with it, there was a Starbucks in Indianapolis at the hotel,
Starbucks, right? The JW Marriott. That basically there's 3 hotels next to each other: JW Marriott, Spring Hill Suites, and the Courtyard. They're all in one conglomerate.
It's like gangs in New York, 4
that
points.
To walk to the combine, there's this thoroughfare that the Starbucks is at. So basically everyone gets coffee at that start. Like that's where you're getting Starbucks if you get Starbucks, because it's all indoors to get to the combine. It's all like above ground walkways. And so there is probably, I mean, it had to be, there's probably like 50 to 60 people that are in this Starbucks that are probably watching Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport go at it because of apparently differing reports on the Matthew Stafford saga that ended up being one of the lamest sagas of all time. He just ended up resigning with
Untrue.
the Rams. So they had differing reports.
Also in Montana skiing, apparently, Matt Stafford and his wife.
Yeah, with Tom Brady, right?
Yeah, same mountains we were in.
You didn't even see him?
No.
Any news for us?
They didn't need the O-lineman, apparently.
But Schultz was the aggressor by all accounts.
Okay.
He was the one that was upset. There's the picture that someone tweeted out where he's like hunkering over him.
Looks like a frat brother outside of the frat house telling another guy why he's not able to come into the fraternity house. That's what that picture painted for me.
I said something a little derogatory after the fact. I said Schultz was a normal sized human being. I take that back. Schultz is 6 foot. Ian Rappaport, Grok says, is approximately 5'8".
Standard insider height.
5'8". So if that were to go to blows, I think Schultz would have won. But it brings up the question of which media member do you trust most in a fight in football media? Not, you can't former players out of it.
Trust most in a fight, because
like,
that
people were talking Jay Glazer.
So I would trust him least in a fight by the measure of, you don't know if he's going to gouge your eyes out, if he's going to bring, you know what I'm saying? Like,
fight fair.
No, I mean, he's fighting to win. Jay Glazer fights to win. Okay. I also suspect that Jonathan Jones has some real dark tricks up his sleeve.
Well, Jonathan Jones, compared to the rest of the insider business,
he's like Andre the Giant.
I don't know why it attracts a shorter clientele.
They have to compress all that information in their heads. JJ's just so strong, with such a strong backbone from UNC in journalism, that he can't be compressed. He's just big. JJ? He's at least 6'3".
He's probably 6'3", 220.
But I'll tell you what, Jay Glazer would give all those guys a couple leg kicks and it would be over quick, I think.
Yeah. So combine was fun, but I am glad to be back.
Who did you see? Because every time that I go to any of these events, I remember when I was at the Senior Bowl, there was people that stood out to me physically. The combine, obviously, there's a lot of avatars walking around that thing. Who was the most impressive person that maybe you didn't recognize off of the rip? That you were like, damn, who's that? And then you found out who it was.
I mean, Shedeur Stewart in person, and he actually ended up being on my flight home because I flew through Houston. That guy's just like built like a different,
like a Myles Garrett outlier.
Yeah.
Okay. Incredible. And now their stats aren't comparable, but in terms of measurables and explosion and the times,
that guy's just built.
They're pretty spot on there.
Yeah. So Shedeur Stewart, probably one of the biggest winners. We'll get to those at the end of the show. Let's get some news though. Bengals franchising T. Higgins for the second straight season. $26.2 million is the tag for him because of the escalator, 20% over last year's tag. They have until July 15th to hammer out a deal, or else, well, that contract becomes guaranteed through 2025. Or if T. Higgins doesn't sign it, he sits out a year. What do you expect to happen here?
So what is the dollar amount set to be? Like, let's say they do work out a deal before this July deadline and the franchise number no longer is a franchise number, and then they get a new deal.
Yeah.
Or somebody else signs him to a 4-year deal. What is his AAV? What's he going to be making? And is it that much higher than what he's going to be making with the franchise tag? Because in my opinion, this is a no-brainer from the Bengals to lock in his rights and get him at an abbreviated cost. I think it's a no-brainer. T. Higgins is such a fantastic player. We talk about Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, but a huge part of their success is the fact that there's a guy out there who is a looming threat on any given down. We love T. Higgins' game. I think it's a no-brainer for me. And if they are going to get a deal done that extends this franchise tag over a number of years, they're going to have to get a friendlier deal than what that top T. Higgins deal is supposed to look like.
So they can fit him under, Jamar under, Trey under, if they really want to go, the bonus route, they'll like really push it down the line route. They're capable of doing it.
But all those guys are going to match their incentives.
It's kind of how basically every team worth a damn now seems to operate, that you don't let good players walk out the door. You find a way to make it work, and you cut where you can cut fat otherwise. So Yeah, if they weren't in the ballpark. But from T. Higgins' perspective, this stinks.
Yes.
He would have surpassed Justin Jefferson's $35 million a year on the open market. Just
35.
That guy hits free agency. He gets more than Justin Jefferson just because of the bidding war. Because there's teams like the Patriots who quite literally have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars this free agency, or else they're not going to hit the cap floor, which we'll talk about in tomorrow's show and do a full cap episode. But it's unfortunate for him. I still think he should ask for, or is going to get somewhere around the top of the market, but he might just be like, dude, tag me twice. I'll play 2 years and I'm still only going to be 27 years old. He'll still get a top of the market deal and hit free agency next year. So I don't know.
So he's missing out on roughly $20 million over the course of this past season and this season, having been franchised twice.
It's the guarantees.
The guarantees are great on the other end, but you're also getting the opportunity to play with Burrow. I mean, that's kind of a priceless situation there. At what dollar amount does it not matter which quarterback you're playing for? Like you talked about the Patriots having to spend $1 trillion in order to get over that cap floor. Like T. Higgins, take this $38 million deal. But I can't promise we're going to be in the playoffs in the next 3-4 years. With the Bengals, you have an opportunity to be that threat every single year. I think that
very true.
Immortality is what players are searching for in the league, and that's winning a Super Bowl, and that's having an opportunity to have a statue somewhere. T. Higgins can do that.
But there also is, and I know wide receivers are prideful, he's never going to be the number one there. There's something to that.
That's kind of nice.
It's nice, but for your own sort of, he's darn good.
You don't want to be the nicest house on the block.
32 best wide receivers in the NFL, right?
Yes.
He's always going to be the second best wide receiver in Cincinnati.
Yes.
Especially since they've said they are going to resign Jamar Chase. So I don't know. Maybe he wants out. We'll see. But I do think the Bengals will do whatever they can to keep him if they're going to tag him again. I don't think this is a tag and trade situation whatsoever. Other Bengals news, they cut Alex Cappa, left guard. 50.5 PFF grade last year. This one was not surprising coming, even though he's been probably their most reliable in terms of being healthy.
Guy never leaves the field.
Over 1,000 snaps, 5 straight seasons. We joked before that guy never leaves the field, but sometimes the defense.
Yeah, I mean,
there's
two sides to this because, as an offensive lineman, I understand better than anybody how fucked up our bodies are. And for a guy like Alex Cappa to go out there week in, week out and play, it shows what kind of man he is. It shows what kind of prep he does in order to get his body ready to play the game of football. And 1,000 snaps 3 years in a row. Is that what it is?
5 years in a row.
5 years in a row. That's unbelievable. Somebody's going to take a chance on him and hope that he can figure out some of those woes in the protection and blocking stuff, which is obviously paramount at the offensive line position.
30 years old, though, now. Sometimes those guys who never come off the field, sometimes they're not actually always healthy.
Oh, they're not.
And
they're just tough.
Yeah.
Tough as nails. That's a Humboldt State guy who, probably has been told his whole career that you can't play, you won't get there. And he's there now, and you got to pry him out of there with a forklift to get him off the field.
So we'll see if last year was just an aberration or if he'll be in demand.
But he's a veteran, and he's got that wisdom and can probably help younger guys. Just because he can't get it done doesn't mean he doesn't know how to get it done. You know what I'm saying? He can help out some guys.
All right, last bit of news here before we go to break. Darius Slay, cut with a post-Gene 1 designation by the Philadelphia Eagles. This one, not terribly surprising.
They want to get young.
Coming off a good year where he had actually the most pass breakups of his entire career with 16. But he's 34 years old. And let's be real, playing cornerback behind that defensive line this year was not
34, but never had a sip of alcohol in his life. So really, he's like 28.
That actually probably is.
Right?
From an inflammation perspective, that guy's body feels
lactic acid on 0 for this guy.
He's never had a drink.
Never had a drink, even at his wedding. First off, is that a red flag for you? Because it's not for me. It's a green flag for me. Like this guy's out here truly.
We're not trying to hang out with this guy. We're trying to watch him play football.
I'd go hang out with him. Maybe he'd be the one friend that can see the blitz coming socially, because he's clear-minded and clear-headed.
I heard a great story, though. I'm going to butcher it, but why he soured with the
Lions?
With the Lions was Matt Patricia called him out, put his picture up of him dapping up Odell Beckham Jr. after the game. Because he posted it on his Instagram. He put it in front of the whole team and roasted him for it.
Why would you do that?
Because Matt Patricia was an absolute dog shit head coach.
Why would you do that ever?
Hey, your best player, let's publicly make fun of him.
Let's make a mockery of him in front of his peers.
Yeah.
I think this ends well.
Yeah.
That's called a shit claymore, and you're going to step on it.
Yeah. So Darius Slay, little great career, but I would put the buyer beware tag on him at that age. And again, if you're signing him, you do not have the Eagles defensive line.
I can't help but think about Darnell Washington just driving him into the back of the end zone. Remember that game and Jalen Carter and all the guys had to come over there? I mean, that's no place to be for any 34-year-old, let alone a DB going against Darnell Washington. But I think somebody will pick him up. Good vet presence.
Yeah.
Probably if he doesn't want to be on a winner, which he'll probably take it. Like if he gets an opportunity to go back to Detroit because Matt Patricia's not there, he'd take less money because that's a Super Bowl caliber team. He could double up. My older brother went from New England to Philly and doubled up. That was like, and LeGarrette Blount did the same thing. This is an opportunity for a guy in those twilight years to be able to put together a really special couple years.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. Yikes. After that, going to get to the Deebo Samuel trade and some Jets news right after this.
Gives it to Jenkins for the championship. A 16 beats a 1. From sweet to elite to the Final Four.
All right, DBO. Oh my God, dude, I can't talk today.
I called him Bevo Samuel in the break because he's so big. I saw a picture of him at the Super Bowl, and I was like, "That's Bevo Samuel."
He even said on Twitter, someone's like, there was a report that he got to 225 last year, and he's just like, "Yeah, I did."
He might have been 238.
He's like, "Yeah, I was heavy as shit. I'm gonna be not heavy this year, though." Was this whole thing? I was like, "Dude, things must have been bad."
I'll tell you what, they're going to be running his ass in that offense.
Yeah.
He's going to be lighter in Washington.
So from the reason why he wasn't as in demand was, well, last year wasn't great. He's 29 years old. His cap hit for the Commanders this season is $17.5 million. But for them, they have, again, we said this midway through last season when they traded for Marshawn Lattimore, that they're in that unique position where you can spend a little frivolously, right? You can, if you really want a piece of a puzzle in an offense or a defense, that you can go pay over market value because you have so much cap space that you're not paying to the quarterback position, yet getting elite quarterback play. And I think specifically for them, it's a yak-based offense. That's a quick passing offense. It's where Deebo Samuel thrives. You don't need him to run down the football field where
you got a winner down the field.
Yes, where admittedly right now, that's not his game. But his game, especially if he loses some weight this year, is still a guy that can be dynamic with the football in his hands. And I mean, if you even just want to use him at like running back, and Cliff Kingsbury, you saw him be creative last year. I bet he gets a bunch of carries this upcoming season. I bet he's basically
RB2.
Yes, that sort of role in that offense.
WR2, RB2.
At this point, it's a 1-year deal that you have him for. Put some city miles on him. Let this guy, empty the gas tank.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz. Is he going to be on the team this year?
Dude, Cliff loves him, right? I mean, Cliff.
Because he's my age. He's going to be like 37 next year, 35 next year.
Tight ends like that. I mean, we talked about it
because that's how you tie those two receivers together. You have a guy that's in the vision of Jaden Daniels all the time. That's Deebo Samuel. Somebody busting up those zone coverages or having a slower linebacker in trail technique on him at or around the line of scrimmage. You got Terry McLaurin winning down the field, but you need to have that tertiary option. Zach Ertz at the end of the season was fantastic. He was a guy that in the red area, Jaden Daniels trusted to be in the right spot, making the right adjustments. I think that offense is so scary, and this is such a great move. And to your point, they can afford to make these moves right now.
Tight ends like that age extremely well, in my opinion. Not they obviously aren't elite guys.
Well, he's still handsome as hell.
But with the role they play,
looks like Channing Tatum.
You saw Jason freaking Witten retire, come back, 37 years old, go for 500 yards. His last 800-yard season was when he was 31. So, I mean, you're not getting the game changer, but if you want a guy that you just rely on.
Big spot.
Yeah. The guy who's like can work the middle of the football field, find the hole in the zone, separate off a linebacker with a shoulder.
And tight ends are teachers.
Do that until he's
great tight ends, smart tight ends are teachers. They understand the run and the pass. They understand blitz pickup, all that stuff because they're involved in it like nobody else. There's nobody else that plays both sides of the coin like a tight end.
I would love, I think the Commanders looking at their offense right now. I think you try to re-sign, gosh, I'm blanking out his name, but their number 2 wide receiver from last year.
Yami Brown.
There we go. Re-sign him. And then I think in the draft, you need like a speed back. I think you get a speed back in there and all of a sudden it's, and brother, there's some speed back. There's some electricity in this draft. So that's if I'm rounding out this Commanders sort of weapons group, that's the last piece of the puzzle, in my opinion. Let's get to the Jets. They're reportedly trying to trade / cut Davante Adams. This one, not surprising. And I know they're trying to trade him, but they will not be trading him. They are going to cut him. He has a $35 million salary this season. No one's going to pick that up.
No.
Davante is 33 years old. He's not completely lost it, but he is not the Davante Adams that signed that contract. So he'll be cut. Where do you want him to land? Because if he's a Packer,
he doesn't have to move apartments if he plays for the Giants. He's
going to elevate to another plane.
If Aaron Rodgers ends up on the Giants, let's just run it back.
Dude.
But they're going to have to really rework that deal. I mean, they're going to have
it's going to be cut.
They're going to have the new deal.
Yeah, it's going to be honestly at this.
What do you give a guy like Davante Adams?
2 years, 20, something like that.
Yeah,
I think that's fair. I just don't think he's getting. Just because the injury risk at this point, the risk of falling off play, you really can't commit a big chunk. And I think it's also for him, it's just, dude probably wants a ring at this point. He had a big
go to Kansas City
with the Raiders. Yeah.
Him and Rashee Rice.
He's going to go to a contender though. We'll see.
He'll be an Eagle by the next week.
A lot more Jets news to get to because the Jets are amongst 2 teams who have been rumored heavily to be in play to trade up to number 1 overall, along with the New York Giants. Benjamin Albright tweeted out that it was basically like he's hearing Giants are making a big push for number 1 overall. Pretty much everyone seemed to be on board with the Titans not being enamored with these quarterbacks. Surprising as that may seem, considering
what impresses you.
Well, yeah, considering what like your other options, Will Levis. All things considered.
It's exciting.
Which one would you be more interested? Who do you think has more to gain by going up to number 1 overall? Jets or Giants?
It's got to be the Giants.
Okay.
I just there's a lot of unknown there with the new staff in New York, with the Jets, but with the Giants, you get Brian Daboll, and we've been waiting for him to have somebody that matches his ability to have some talent. Honestly. We haven't seen that from Daniel Jones. That's why things went so south. And it's also why I'm not batting an eye at the Aaron Rodgers possibility in New York wearing blue instead of green. It would be an interesting change of tune there. But, you get a guy like Cam Ward with Brian Daboll, and I'd be excited to watch what happens. You were just telling me that Cam Ward's all ball.
All ball.
Brian Daboll wants an all ball guy.
For the Giants specifically, I'm very intrigued by the idea of not only drafting a guy number 1 or number 3, but also signing one. I think really throwing the kitchen sink at quarterback after the Daniel Jones era is the route I'm taking. Just saying, I'm not going to go in empty-handed anymore. I'm not going to go in with freaking Drew Lock. I'm going to go in with Aaron Rodgers.
That's who you show up with, Drew Lock.
Yeah. Well, but you show up with Aaron Rodgers and Cam Ward next season. How are you feeling as a Giants fan?
Yeah.
You're elated.
Yeah.
You are on cloud 9. Ticket sales are through the roof.
I bet those 2 guys would get along great.
We'll see. I mean, I'm not predicting anyone to get along great with Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers loves ball too. As much
RFK Jr.
As much of a sideshow as Aaron Rodgers is, the guy is a football artist. He is a student of the game. He's somebody who is like, this has changed his life for the better. And you talk about Cam Ward being all ball and fishing, like maybe there's something in the water there, no pun intended, that could get these 2 guys linked up in the right way in the room, unlike Brett and Aaron.
Mm-hmm. If I'm Cam Ward too, I would watch Rodgers tape. That's a guy who you want to, because he's not,
makes
Rodgers
it look easy.
And Rodgers isn't the Mr. Robotic in the pocket. He's very free and loose himself. But he knew how to harness it within structure still. So Cam Ward, not a bad guy to learn from, if that were to be the case. More Jets news. Did you see this from Josina Anderson reporting? And now this may not actually technically be Jets news, but she said this: I am disappointed to hear that a quarterback's coach from a team drafting in the top 7. So if you put top 7, you would, if it was a team drafting at 6, you wouldn't put probably top 7.
No.
If it was a team drafting at 5, you probably wouldn't put top 7. If it was a team drafting at 8, you would put top 8 or top 10. So if you put top 7, it's the Jets, who are drafting 7th overall. Said refer to Shedeur Sanders as coming off brash and arrogant in his team interviews and making his assessment known to a number of people per source. I'm purposely not naming the team. Sure, Josina, as to not directly call the team out. I'm just sharing that this coach's personal assessment is the direct opposite from how Sanders came across to many reporters in his press conference with the media at the Combine. Sanders appeared to go out of his way to acknowledge multiple media members, regardless if they were recognizable or not. He seemed cordial, polite, witty, thoughtful, along with being confident, as many athletes are.
She's on the payroll.
Alternately, these observations were distinctly different from how any other quarterback prospect came off to some of the media members in Indy. And then she goes on to say about how it's unfair to publicize these things, when the irony is here that he was telling people privately she's the one publicizing these things. And well, you are a quarterback's coach making a decision for a quarterback that you're going to draft. It's okay to not like a guy and just say, I don't want to work with this guy. If you came across an interview and you didn't like him and you don't want to work with them, that's your that's your livelihood is the next 4 years. If you're the quarterback's coach, you're going to have to deal with this guy every day. And if you don't like him, it's okay to just say, I don't like him and I'm not going to draft him, in my opinion.
We got to be around a lot of the players that came in for pre-draft visits. So like some of the vets would always be in the building in the offseason, getting a lift in, getting a free lunch.
Yeah.
And you get to meet these guys from Alabama, from Georgia, from Arizona State, the next guy up, the next O-lineman up. And you get to meet some of these guys. And I remember meeting a guy like Quentin Nelson and just being enamored with the fact that not only did the film I watch of him from Notre Dame speak to me that he was going to be a Hall of Fame level player immediately, but when I met the guy, he was such a gentleman. He was just like an easy hang. That's not every player that comes into these buildings and takes visits. And I'm sure that the same experience happens in Indianapolis, where there are great players who may not match that with their personality or their ability to connect to members of the media or put their best foot forward socially. I watched some of the Shedeur Sanders stuff, and I understand that nobody can relate to this guy because primetime is his dad, and he's the situation. It's not like primetime's his dad and he plays DB as well. He's the quarterback. He is the head honcho, the reason that people are buying tickets for these games. I understand why his confidence is so high. And also, if you're Deion's kid, are you going to be a quiet, humble guy? No, you have to lean into that a little bit because that's part of the whole. Yeah, it's part of the whole deal. You put a loud paint color on a Ferrari because it's a loud car. You know what I'm saying? You don't give it something boring. So I give him credit for the confidence and all that stuff, but I also understand that on the Jets side of things, or this top 7 quarterback coach side of things, that he's going to be like, hey, you know what? All that's well and good, but it's not for me. That's completely within their place as a coach or a talent evaluator.
And again, here's the thing.
Because some guys just don't want that distraction.
And I said, I was actually when I talked with Dylan Gabriel at the Combine, he said something that I thought was very great perspective. He said, the people that care that I'm short at quarterback, I don't want to play for those teams. If the people that care about, Shedeur Sanders' whatever persona, he shouldn't want to play for those teams.
Yeah,
it cuts both ways. If you don't disagree, or if you don't have a mesh personality wise with someone, whether it's your boss or whether it's your subordinate in an organization, It ain't going to be, both people are going to be unhappy.
I see a guy like Mike
Okay.
McDaniel being able to empower a guy like Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
Somebody who's young in mind. You want the guy to have juice. You want your players' personalities to shine through. And believe it or not, I think Andy Reid would appreciate a guy like Shedeur Sanders, because not only does he like good football players, he appreciates football history like nobody else. And what's more football history than primetime? And I think that having a guy like that, a talent like that, it's magnetic. You instill confidence in the players around you. And yeah, there's definitely going to be some teams that are like, hey, fuck that. We don't want any part of that. But there's going to be some teams that are on the other side of that say we need more of that.
Yeah. So we shall see. But
I'm excited to watch him play, because he's like, I'm going to change your team. He's like, do you know who my dad is?
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, cringe a little bit. But at the same time, that's all he knows is that extreme confidence. And that's probably why he's got those giant diamonds around his neck and why his Colorado team was
how many diamonds
better.
did you show up to the combine with?
I didn't have any diamonds. I actually don't even have gold on my wedding ring. It's just a rubber ring.
I do just think, though, that this whole situation is hilarious, that a private conversation from a private interview we're getting upset about and making it public.
Yep.
Like you're the one making this public.
So did he make it public?
No, Josina Anderson made it public.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like you're getting mad at.
She got a story.
Tear these guys down when you're the one pushing.
She got a story. Good for Josina.
Well done. All right, last bit of news before we get to the combine. Cam Skattebo, you can relate to this one. That's why we're getting to it.
Yeah, this
sued by a former teammate on the eve of the combine over a golf cart incident where he reportedly jumped on the back of a golf cart.
Okay.
Caused it to break the back off. Matthios Kataguris, his former offensive lineman teammate, fell, suffered injuries, and is seeking $300,000 from Skattebo and the Arizona Board of Regents for the incident.
You know what? Screw these people that wait until one of the biggest days or nights of these athletes' lives and careers to try to piss in the fruit punch. Cam Skattebo, obviously, we love watching him play the game of football. Is he perfect in all social situations? Obviously not. We've all jumped on the back of some golf carts. Got a little rowdy with the boys. Not only that, no linemen. You know, this is like a football group of people.
We'd be surprised if Cam Skattebo's never had a drink.
I'd be surprised if Cam Skattebo didn't jump on a golf cart with all his boys. But what surprises me is this Benedict Arnold turncoat bullshit that we see all the time with people that are prominent figures in athletics. It's unfortunate, and people are looking for a free ride, and they wait in the weeds for you to be right there at the impetus of success, and they try to cut you down like this. In 2012, I was in the combine, and I was in the train station meeting everybody, shaking hands with coaches, meeting my peers. It was a really great opportunity for me. And one guy walked up, he said, "Are you Kyle Long?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "You've been served." And I was like, okay.
Was it Nick Cannon?
I was like, what is this? Yeah, you got served. I was like, what? I didn't understand that there was a legal processing happening right there. Yeah. So I went up to my room and I was like, what is this? And I opened it. I was being sued by somebody that I grew up with, who I got in a 4x4 accident with. Oh, he's alive and well. I'm not going to name any names, but we got in a 4x4 accident, and he banged up his shoulder. And yeah, they waited like 4 years for me to go to the combine to serve me papers. Like, they were waiting for the opportunity to get that payday. What's that?
For you to have money.
Yeah, it's, this is very real. And they say protect your money once you get money, but I would argue just protect yourself now, so that if the opportunity ever comes for you to come into some financial success, there's not people waiting there with a knife at your throat. And I hate this for Cam Skattebo, and I hope that the other person is doing all right. Wink, wink.
Well, Skattebo had himself a good combine. Didn't run, but 39.5-inch vertical at 220 is pretty damn
39.5-inch vertical
for a white guy.
Are you kidding me? For anybody?
Well,
a 40-inch vertical. For that running back?
It's impressive. All right. Speaking of, let's get to the combine scores. We're going to take a quick break. We do it right after this.
I've been home see the faces that remember my own. When I'm with my friends, I feel home.
All right. Relative athletic score. You're talking before the show here that you're obsessed with relative athletic score. I think, I'll just tell you my take real quick on it, and then you give me why you're obsessed.
I'm partial.
I think it's a great way to look at athletic testing because it is a holistic, what the NFL is trying to do with the combine is give a holistic sort of view of who you are as an athlete. That's why they have you do this completely linear thing called running a 40-yard dash. But then they also have you change directions in a short shuttle, in a 3-cone. And they also have you jump.
Single leg, double leg, all that.
So they have you do a bunch of different things. And basically what relative athletic score tries to do is measure in each drill, what percentile are you compared to that position? Is your broad jump 90th percentile or is it 10th percentile? And then all of those, if you're basically above average, if you're 60th percentile at every single thing, though, you're probably a pretty darn good athlete. You're probably a 90 plus percentile athlete if you're just above average at everything. And then it factors in things like size as well, because height and weight matter once you get to the NFL. If you're doing, running a 4.4 at 150 pounds, 170 pounds is a lot different than running 4.4 at 270 pounds. So all those things go into it. And then it has historical rankings, and that's what comes up with the ultimate RAS score, which is basically like a percentile. So we had 3 10s this year, but tell me why you
10s?
10s. TBD, because they haven't done full testing with 3 10s.
Fucking 10s?
So that means
they're just growing them differently now.
3 guys who are the best all time.
That Similac is hitting. They changed the formula from when I was a kid. Obviously, I couldn't get into the 10s. So I got tagged a couple weeks ago in a thread by a gentleman named Kent Lee Platt.
He's the one who does it.
Who is at MathBomb on X, and he's the creator of RAS at ras.football. And yeah, he tagged me in a pretty cool thread. I didn't even know what RAS was. I wasn't aware of my score when I went, but I got a 9.84 RAS out of 10. And apparently people are actually getting 10s. It's not just an empty part of the ranking scale. And in the thread, they gave other notable Chicago Bears that had high RAS scores. And then they put some historically low ones too. And on both ends of the spectrum, I found it interesting that there were players. So on the high end of the RAS spectrum, there were guys that just sucked in the NFL.
Yes.
And then on the bottom end of the RAS spectrum, there were guys that were stalwarts on teams that I was on. For example, I'll start with a low RAS score. Eddie Goldman was drafted round 2, pick 39 in 2015. He scored a 2.01 on the RAS score, which tells me that he can't even fucking tie his shoes in the morning or take a shit without mom coming to wipe his butt. But you know what he could do? He could 2-gap his ass off. He could extend in the run game, have gap integrity, and make tackles like nobody's business.
So I'll interject here. When we did studies about athletic scores and the positions where they matter the most, center and nose tackle mattered the least because it's it's a phone booth fight, right? Like it's play strength.
Okay.
It is a play strength position. It's the one that's the least athletically based. So
center and they should get paid the least.
Those are, well, it's just,
I'm kidding.
It's completely different job description than pretty much every other position. After that, it was like, I think guard may have been second, but the ones that mattered the most, it was corner, it was edge. Surprisingly, wide receiver wasn't super high. Everyone covets traits of wide receiver, not super high in that list. Tight end was pretty high, actually. The better tight ends test out a lot better because obviously unique athletes that have to play that position. Edge was the highest, though.
Leonard Floyd.
Defensive end.
So Leonard Floyd was round 1, pick 9 in 2016, and he scored a 9.81. So he was 26th out of 1,311 linebackers from 1987 to 2016. And then the couple names on this list that stood out to me, Roma Dunze. Roma Dunze was a 9.92.
Yep.
A freak show. We met him down there in New Orleans, and he was bigger in person. I was amazed at how much bigger in person he was. And then you watch him move, and he moves like a big cat. He's smooth, he's fast, he's explosive, all those things. But then the outlier
is Roma Dunze is one of those where
Evan
if
White.
You look at his 4.47, you're like, Is that a really
but
great
he
athlete?
plays football.
But he's big and he can turn. He can do all the other stuff.
Kevin White scored like a damn near 10.
Yeah, it was the.
And I love Kevin White. Great dude. Seriously, great dude, great teammate, one of the nicest guys in the world. But like, it didn't translate.
Yeah. And
he's out there in space where you can use those RAS numbers. So is it the first number you look at to kind of get an understanding of who they are as an athlete?
Well, I don't want to say like toot my own horn here, but I've been doing this for so long that I instinctively can see a number and just know where it lands and how good. So like I instinctively see their numbers and like this guy's an XYZ athlete. So I don't necessarily need these, but it's obviously provides good context. And there are certain things where if a guy is, say there's defensive end who's just like a bull rusher and he's just like a super linear player. He doesn't need to go bend the edge. He wins that way. If he runs a bad 3-cone, I'm not too worried.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like,
he's going to play his game.
He has a great 10 split. He has a great broad. He could win. So there are certain things that just as historically, I know that like a guy you can give up here or there in his testing, but it's definitely, this is how I would say to use combine numbers is not just look at one, not just pick and choose, but to see a holistic view.
Well-rounded athlete score.
Because it also factors in size to it. So if you're really undersized, it'll factor that in.
Tate Ratledge. The guy with the mullet, the guy we hear paired with Freebird on TikTok and Instagram all the time.
9.98.
9.98.
So I'll get to the guys who, let's say all the ones who outscored you, because I believe there's 17 guys who outscored at 9.84. But that being said,
all O linemen?
No, not all O linemen.
I was like, damn,
only three. Only 3 O linemen outscored you. No, 4. Sorry. I will say the caveat that guys don't do their bad drills though yet. So these are all unofficial because we don't get most of these guys full testing runs. Like Shamar Stewart just did all the explosive stuff and he's like, change direction. I'm not going to do it. So Shamar Stewart was a 10 just because he had
he only answered the questions he knew the answers to.
Correct. 4.59 40 inch vertical, 10-11 broad jump. Doing that 267 pounds gets you a perfect 10. Nick Manwari in a similar boat, the South Carolina safety, doesn't do any of the change direction drills, but 43-inch vertical, 11.6 broad jump, 4.38 40, 220 bench reps, and he's 220 freaking pounds. That guy's a truly unbelievable athlete. And then the other 10, this one surprised me, but again, this is how it factors in size. Isaiah Nair, the Nebraska wide receiver, 4.4 40, 1.5 10 split, 38-inch vertical, 11.1 broad jump, but he did it all at 218 pounds. He's not going to be a 10 though when it's like short shuttle, 3-cone come in. So that's like the caveat there. The other guys, cornerback,
these are all asterisks
out of Iowa State. He's the first one who I believe doesn't come with an asterisk. He did the full testing run and scored a 9.99. So if you're talking about the most impressive combine, in my opinion, it's Darian Porter, the Iowa State cornerback, because at 6'3", 195 pounds, ran a 4.3 40, 36.5-inch vertical, 10-11 broad jump, but then these numbers are absurd. 6.71 3-cone and 4.04 short shuttle for a big 6'3" corner. Those are all
6.71 3-cone.
Those are elite numbers.
I just did the rep in my head. That guy's moving.
So a 9.99 doing a full testing run. I guess he didn't do the bench press. The only thing he didn't do, but a full testing run.
So that guy gets
gold
the
medal of he could theoretically end up a 10 if he improves on some of those numbers at his pro day. But
2013, it was Teron Armstead and Lane Johnson and myself were like the fast guys in that group. And Lane and Teron ran the 40, and I think Teron got like a 4.79 or like a 4.82, and Lane went 4.84, and I went like 4.88. And I remember thinking to myself, I was fast, but I got to do all these other drills because I wasn't that fast. And Lane and those guys were going to be done. And I remember Lane and I talking like, this is fun to compete and to be around all these guys. And I remember we talked one another into going and doing all the other drills. And it was awesome. We hadn't trained in that at all. We trained maybe the 40 and obviously the O-line drills, but we saw all the other guys having fun and cheering one another on. I'm surprised that you don't get 100% participation in all this stuff, because when you're in that building at Lucas Oil, and you know that there have been thousands of guys come and run before you and thousands of hours of prep, it just kind of boils out of you like this competitive spirit. You want to get in there and find out what you're going to do. I remember doing the L drill for the first time, watching Lane do it. I was watching him like, okay, that's how you do it. Do you turn right or left? And yeah, you feel better for having done that. And the coaches who were putting on the drill are like, hey, that was awesome. You know what I mean? Like, you guys didn't want to do this at the beginning. You said you were only going to do X, Y, and Z, but now we just went and did the whole alphabet together. And that's what O-line's about, particularly at the offensive line position.
And you saw it over the course of the weekend. The one position with the highest participation rate.
O-line.
O-line.
We're the friggin' goats, man.
It was.
You can't hold our underwear, everybody else.
I had this take yesterday, though, that I think it's my fault that people don't do all the drills anymore.
What'd you do to them?
I think it's the media calling guys losers after they test poorly. We always frame it as
I call them losers when they don't test.
That's what we should start doing. Losers for not testing. But no, it's the agents obviously are like the impetus behind guys not testing. I think a lot of those guys want to go out there and compete, want to go out there and prove that they got it. But you see a lot of them, as I have to take my earpiece out because someone's playing music in my ear right now.
Is it good?
No, I think I'm getting like the main studio CBS feed. But a guy, Gunnar Helm, he like sprains his ankle on his 40-yard first one because he false starts. Goes out there, runs like a 4.93, and still every list I saw, Gunnar Helm loser. It's like, dude, why would you want to subject yourself to that?
Those are the pictures I saw?
Yes.
Dude, that's bad. Lateral ankle sprain.
Why would you subject yourself if you're a player who's not a high-end athlete, who's maybe doesn't win that way, and like one of your drills is going to be poor? Why go out there, run poorly? Every single media member points a finger at you and says, loser.
Because he's a gangster and he will have the last laugh.
Because when you were coming out, combine coverage was like, you maybe get a couple articles. And
the only article that came out about me was that somebody wrote, every year there's somebody that is fully bald. This year it's Kyle Long. And it was like, I remember I didn't shave my head. And I went across the stage in front of all these people and I had like the cul-de-sac haircut. And this obese person, this giant of a whale of a man, was in the back chuckling when I was out there. And it was the only, you could hear a pin drop in that room, except for this guy chuckling. It was like, yuck, 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 yuck.
And then he wrote
an hour later, there was an article on Twitter, or a tweet on Twitter, that essentially was just body shaming me. So now I get the opportunity to body shame this nameless, shapeless individual.
Bald shaming to me is even worse than fat shaming.
Because you can't control it.
Can't control it.
At all.
At all.
I know some people are just bigger by, I'm 300 pounds. I understand how that goes. Mike and I are different phenotypes. You know what I'm saying? There's a range there's a range for me and there's a range for Mike.
I was never going to end up 310.
But I can't control this.
Can't. No.
You can't even look at it straight, Mike. Mike can't even look at it.
It hurts my eye.
But yeah, don't bald shame, okay?
Yeah. I think we're past.
Or I'm going to end up wearing wave caps everywhere, which is not a bad look.
If you're in Turkey, though, I think you can bald shame. I think you can do something about it in Turkey, right? That's where
there's just like a hotel of people with bandages. Like everybody has bandages. It's like the next White Lotus season will be taking place at the Turkish hair restoration facility.
Oh, I missed this week's White Lotus. I'm
going to watch it tonight.
Okay.
No spoilers.
We'll have to report back tomorrow. Other guys that hit the testing well, 9.98 for Tate Ratledge, Georgia guard, and the Georgia center, Jared Wilson, with a 9.98. That's an athletic.
Those two guys.
Isaac Tesla. Here's a great one. This guy also did a full testing run, and he had a 9.97, and he is a white 6'4" wide receiver. Some of the numbers
Isaac Tesla,
named Tesla.
This is a fake person,
dude. He did not produce at Arkansas. Let's be real, but he was a transfer from. I'm blanking on where he transferred from. I'll look it up in a sec. 214 pounds, 6'4". It's a 4.43, 39.5-inch vertical, 10.9 broad jump, 6.85 three cone, 4.05 short shuttle, and a 17 bench press reps. That's how, like I said, none of those numbers on their whole are elite numbers,
but all of them together.
Every single one is very, very good. And when every single one's very, very good, that's an elite athlete. So Isaac Tesla.
edge rusher, Arkansas, Landon Jackson. So there was a video. Do you remember this video? Do you remember the video of like some high school kid at a camp doing the worst rep you've ever seen for a bag drill? And it looked like a guy that was intentionally trying to be goofy. Like you were,
well, I don't think it's,
but you watch it. Yes, you watch it. And I remember I was in the league when that video came out.
He's also completely bald.
And I was, well, it has
no hair on his body, but it
remember,
makes it
no bald shaming.
It adds to the,
what I'm saying is the guy is I'm going to guess his measurable, 6'5.5", 260. In this high school video, he was 6'5.5", 240, but he had no clue how to do the drills.
Yes.
And it looked like he was bastardizing the drill intentionally. Well, I went and I was watching this guy.
It looked like a Rick James skit where he's walking up to people and just slapping him.
Yes. I saw combine footage of Landon Jackson, and I was like, he looks like the guy that was so shitty at that drill that I saw a handful of years ago. Turns out that guy used all the hate he got and turned it into better looking drills. And now I can't help but think that this guy is just going to be like making $25 million a year. Arkansas, Landon Jackson. Shout out to Landon Jackson for a redemption story.
I saw the comp for him was the alien in Prometheus.
Stop. The guy from Avatar.
Or that. He's a unique dude.
Big.
Very
lean.
curious to see Landon Jackson and how he fares in the NFL because he's got some different tricks. Anytime you're on a graphic, if you saw the graphic, that was guys 260 plus pounds who have jumped 40 inches in the vertical. Mario Williams, Myles Garrett, Shamar Stewart, Landon Jackson. That's good company.
Sign him up.
2 first overall picks, excuse me. So
and he hasn't been the cool kid. Okay, so this is important. All the other guys on that list have been like the best player forever.
Yes.
This guy, Landon Jackson, snuck up on us. We saw him one time in high school doing a shitty job in a bag drill, and now everybody's seeing him blow up these combine numbers. You have to think that this guy's been living with the comment section of that video for the last handful of years, and it's driven him to greatness. I'm going to be betting on this guy. Landon Jackson. I'm betting on him.
All right. Let's get some of the others that tested really well. Isaac Tesla, I said 9.97. Caleb Ransaw, Tulane. DB, 9.95. Jihad Campbell, first round pick, Alabama linebacker, 9.95.
Buffalo Bill. You are a Buffalo Bill.
He looked awesome. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, Georgia DT, 9.93. Jalen Travis, Iowa OT, 9.91. Keaton Crawford, I believe, is Nevada safety, 9.9. Quinshon Judkins, highest of any running back, 9.89. He had himself a great time. Landon Jackson, which mentioned. Will Campbell goes 9.86.
Freak show.
Can we talk about his frame, though?
Yeah.
Because he's 6'6".
He's a big kid.
And his wingspan is shorter than his height.
That's what I had.
Your wingspan shorter than
I don't know if my wingspan was shorter than my height.
That's right.
But relative to my height, my wingspan wasn't good enough. They called me and Justin Pugh T-Rex. They were like, these guys have short arms. And like,
oh no,
we've been texting each other the last 15 years. Like, hey, what's up, T-Rex? How you doing, bro?
How long were your arms? I thought they were like 30.
Long enough, MFer.
I thought they were not short by guard standards.
70, I don't know, 60.
You had 33 and 3/8 inch, 79 and 5/8 inch wingspan. So 6'7" and 5/8. So it's like 1.5 inches longer than your height, your wingspan.
So I'm pretty square.
That's.
How much shorter is he than me?
He is
in terms of arm wingspan,
like 4 inches. That's the whole rub.
He's a guard. He's a center.
He would have the shortest wingspan of any offensive tackle in the NFL. Yeah,
he's a guard center.
And I think that
he'll be available at 10.
Everyone's been saying arm length, 32 and 5/8 inches. There are some guys in the NFL, Luke Gedeke, Braden Smith, doing it with under 33 inch arms. They have short arms. They have broad shoulders, though.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, just think about if you take this to its most extreme, think about a pencil with 35 inch arms. You still can't block shit. You're only covering 70 inches, So if you have really narrow shoulders and somewhat short arms, you present
a small target.
So much smaller target. You have so much smaller base of where you can get to. Life's just tough, especially against NFL edge rushers. And I saw him when he had real speed guys off the edge. that's what he
The
struggled
guy
with
from
because you don't have
from Texas A&M.
yes. Not the guy who came out. The guy who's
Yes,
coming out next year. He gave him some fits.
yeah, he's like a bursty, edgy guy.
Yes. And he was just like couldn't find him.
I forget his name. I apologize,
Yeah,
but you popped on film. You were popping off on film.
So
Good battles though. He's a guard. I mean, he's a guard. He'll be an ass kicker at the guard position for a decade.
So but that to me, it does matter when we're talking about wingspan. Not necessarily as much arm length. If he had broad shoulders and was a big, thick guy, 340 or whatever, I don't think anyone would be batting an eye. But it is a real thing when you are that
Big lower body.
Yeah,
he's got big legs.
Big legs, skinnier shoulders for a guy that size.
Yes.
All right. Then we go to wide receiver Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, one of the more surprising combines. He was awesome, 9.85. Ty Robinson, the Nebraska DT, 9.84. So those are the guys who were as good, if not better than you. Some guys close to that are householdish names
out there.
Armand Membu, the Missouri OT, went 9.81. He could play tackle. The more I've watched him, more I'm like, hey, I think he still could play tackle, even though he's short. That guy's got long arms. And then Terrence Ferguson, the Oregon tight end, your alma mater. 9.81.
Well, that means I graduated, right?
Does it? I think it just means you attended.
I think alma mater means like you got a hat.
Let's see. Did you have to graduate?
Cap and gown.
We're gonna.
They gave me a Letterman's jacket, but not a cap and gown.
Dude, I'd take a Letterman's jacket instead of diploma at this point. Oh, not your alma mater.
Yeah,
my bad.
That's my place of education.
It means nourishing mother in Latin. So, did you get nourished?
Nourishing mother. I did. I got nourished in Eugene.
A lot of milk. All right. There you have it.
Organic, raw milk. That's probably what they drink in Eugene, honestly.
Ooh. No, it's illegal, I think, in a lot of states.
See, I don't even know. I just go talk to the cow about it.
Just go straight to the source. Straight to the suckle. All right. There's your combine. We're going to do a full free agency cap preview on tomorrow's show. We're going to ask for your questions about what things you've been curious about the cap. You're going to ask some questions.
I have a million questions about the cap.
He's got a million questions. If you guys have any questions, I'll tweet it out a little bit later today. But I'll ask for you guys, what do you want to know about the cap and how it relates to some free agency and decisions and whatever you guys want to know. We'll ask them on tomorrow's show. We may even have a cap expert come on the show, not myself. So TBD on that.
No cap?
No cap, fam. Till next time. Keep pushing.
Peace.